Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Jamey Schrier, and he's a returning guest. Hello, Jamey.
Hello, Eddie. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Glad to be back. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Jamey, you have an amazing bio. I'm going to read it, but you can add to it. So you are a physical therapist and you're the founder of Practice Freedom, and you're the author of the Practice Freedom Method. So obviously you had your practice and you built it and you sell the multi-million-dollar physical therapy business. You sold it and you now coach entrepreneurs who feel stuck in the weeds of their own companies. You know, you're known for your raw, contrarian approach. You challenge leaders to stop being operators and start being architects, designing business that run without them. So your work helped hundreds of owners scale to multi-million-dollar valuations, increase profitability, and most importantly, reclaim the time and freedom, which we know that that's what entrepreneurs want. And that's what entrepreneurs want. And honestly, that's why I do what I do as well. You know, that's why my team and myself, you know, we provide the freedom to the entrepreneurs with creating systems, which is only one aspect of everything. You look at it on a holistic view, and then we plug in there and go, okay, you want systems, we'll get you the systems, because we know that they know they need it, but they don't do it themselves. So that's one component. We're going to talk today about the holistic component that you help businesses with. And, you know, we want to make sure that if we have listeners that feel stuck, that something sparks in them after this conversation, and they can see what's possible beyond just working harder. That's what we want to accomplish today.
Yeah, that sounds great, and I think you're right. I think every entrepreneur out there has this vision, has this dream, this picture of what they want to create. However, with our, I guess, conditioning, with society, with how we have grown up, we buy into this notion that all we can do is work harder, and if we work harder, everything will work out. Now, business takes hard work, it takes effort, but at some point, shouldn't your hard work pay off? At some point, shouldn't you not be stuck in the day-to-day, in the operations, grinding away with your only solution is to work even harder? Well, eventually you run out of the hours of the day, and the whole purpose, I believe, and this is my view, the purpose that I created my business was not just to help other people and create an impact. That's important to me. But it's also to create the life that I want, right? That I want for myself and for my family, which takes a couple things. It takes money to have that kind of life, and it takes time and flexibility and the ability to control one's schedule. And what happens that I've seen, and I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of business owners and all different types of businesses and industries, what I've seen is we lose that focus. We lose the focus of our life and our family, and we just grind. And we just continue to grind with the hope of, maybe getting over this next hump. And you know as well as I do that hope is not a great strategy. It's nice to have hope, but we better have something more than just hope, which is why, I love what you're doing and what you're about, because it does take a way of doing something. It takes a consistent way, which is what a system and process is. So if you don't have
Absolutely.
that, you're really going to be stuck in your business.
Absolutely. Okay, so Jamey, you have so much experience working with businesses. What have you seen that is actually keeping business owners in their business, mired in the business and not being able to be elevated and extract themselves from the business?
Yeah, well, there's three things I want to talk about today. Number one, it might seem simple, it might seem obvious, but man, it is something that holds people back. And that is this idea of control. They want control. And when I started diving into kind of the research and the psychology around this idea of control, if you go beyond this idea of control, there's a deeper hidden fear. And it's the fear of letting go. And that is something that every business owner, every entrepreneur I've ever spoken to has. We all have it. Even the ones that have done, letting go, it doesn't mean it wasn't difficult to do so. But what I have seen is that people have trouble trusting. They have trouble letting something go that they feel no one can do it as well as them. And it's
That
that
is correct.
perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I see that too. I just want to add to it. I do see that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really from what we do. That's why I go, okay, Jamey, you're the business owner. You don't feel like people are going to do as good a job. Let's figure out what is it that you do. Because I find maybe, and tell me if it's correct. And, I know, this is the System Simplified podcast, right? So we like to talk about systems. I find that many times the owners, the entrepreneurs, the founders, the ones who created the business will say, yeah, but it's me, it's the way I do things, right? I cannot put it into a process. I can't create a system off of it. It's the way I do business development. It's my connections. If I give it to somebody to do, they're not going to be able to talk to the client the same way that I do. I mean, I'm sure you experienced that. I experienced that. I'm thinking, oh, well, I have a certain method that no matter what, I'll be able to really get the client through the session in a very, very good way. But how am I expecting a new employee to know what to do? How am I going to pass that trust that the client has in me to somebody else? I mean, I'm sure as a physical therapist, that happened to you as well when you started and actually were treating people, right?
Oh,
Then
yeah.
are you
Oh,
going to
yeah.
get another physical therapist? I mean, it's because
No, nobody did it as well as me.
right? Exactly. Because
No,
what is it? It's not a technology. I mean, we all went to school and learned how to be a physical therapist, but my experience with chiropractors, with physical therapists, I mean, it's also the touch, the knowing, you probably know exactly where to touch the person to release the pain.
yeah. 100%. I could talk to somebody, look at their thing, and in 5 minutes know exactly what's going on. So
So
it's
how do
it's
you pass it to somebody
well,
else?
first of all, we have to come to the realization that you cannot teach wisdom. Wisdom is acquired. Wisdom is not just knowledge. Wisdom is the application of knowledge and the reflection on that application. You start to put things together. So be comfortable that the reason you're so good at what you do is because you've acquired this wisdom over time. However, if you don't look at what you're doing in some type of systematic process, even if, and this is what I discovered, even if it's intuitive to you. You see, the same way I treat it as a therapist is the same way I coach. And I still coach clients, even though I have several other coaches. And I'm very good at what I do, but it's not by accident. It's because I've trained, I've gone through, I reflect, I learn, I grow. I have this intuitive way. However, I'm going to be trapped in my business if I don't take the approach like maybe they won't be me, but am I okay if they're 80% of me? Would I be okay? See, if your answer is no, then you're going to be trapped. But if your answer is, you know what? If they're just 80% of me, then all I have to do is create the 80% framework, the 80% way that you do it. They'll never have your just unique intuitive approach. That's uniquely you. But by using what you have created and by creating a way of doing it, they're going to create their own wisdom over time. So it's a shift in how you think about this fear of letting go and realize that you're not trying to make people like you. It's impossible. There's only one. However, using the Pareto's principle of 80-20, what if you approached it as, what if they were 80% like me? I'd rather have that than 100% of me being stuck in a business. I'd rather have 5 or 10, 80% people that are doing a really good job. And then my job could be to help mentor them and help work with them to help improve that. But it's this idea of holding on versus letting go.
That is so smart. And I am with you on that. And that is, again, that's why I look at systematizing a business. That's what I call it. That's the way I was able to extract myself and have team members under me. That's the way you did it. And it is really looking at, although you're thinking you're doing, it's your intuition and you're doing something unique, that's the problem. So you first of all have to look at what is it that you are doing that is a system and is a process. How do you talk to a client? What is it that you do? Also identify the qualities. When I talk to a client, I listen, I care, I'm empathetic, I'm curious, I'm interested. So you also list those qualities. So when you teach somebody, you don't just teach them the mechanics of like, okay, like in your case, okay, so you manipulate or you do this, but this is also how I look at it. What's my approach? What's my attitude? So then you kind of like make it more holistic, and it makes it more of a story that you are telling them, then they can do and they can duplicate. So that's, I mean, it's something with a recipe. Like I would assume if you have a chef, it's the touch, it's the feel. I mean, you can have the same recipe done by one person and the same and then another person making the same, following the same instructions, and the food is going to come out differently because it doesn't have that flair, it doesn't have that soul, whatever you want to call it. But then you have to really look at it. So that's when hiring correctly also comes into play, because then you know that you need to hire people with those attitudes, with those skills. I mean, if you're like this upbeat person and you always come into the room when the patient is, and you always talk to them, and that alone just lifts them up, and then you hire somebody who may be can do the manipulations very good and can work very good, but is very grumpy, it's not going to work. It's going to ruin everything. So I think identifying what is, and then creating a wisdom knowledge transfer that, it will help you feel more confident, but you also have to take the responsibility of training them and delegating correctly.
Yeah.
But anyway, I agree with point number one. What's point number two?
Point number two is a great point. So point number two, many times we get attached with the identity that we have either gone through school to get, or the identity that we have been told we are. So for me, this became true when I graduated from school, from physical therapy school, and people say, what do? You immediately say, I'm a physical therapist, I'm a PT. Okay, that's what you went to school for. Well, then you start a business and people say, what do you do? And you say the same thing, I'm a PT. Then you're 5 years in business and you're still saying the same thing. What's happening is that you have an automated response to say something that has been conditioned within you to say. But what I started to realize, because my coach started to challenge me, he said, Jamey, aren't you so much more than a PT? I said, well, yeah, I'm a business owner, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a healer of so many people. He goes, why don't you start to say those types of things just to break yourself out of this habit? Addie, that was so hard. It was so hard not automatically saying my profession, because you are not the profession. That is just a degree you got. Or if you are a plumber or electrician, those are just degrees and things that you got. The question really is, who are you? And what's happening is people are just quickly trying to size you up to understand you.
Yeah.
When you pause for a second and really look at what is your identity, and start to challenge yourself and challenge by asking. Sometimes I would ask questions. I said, are you a business owner? Yeah. Then you understand the challenges of being stuck in the business and the profitability and the hiring. He goes, yeah. And I was like, great. So what I do is I help people with that have none of those issues. So I didn't actually say who I am. What I said was, this is what I help people
What
do.
the results that you get, I think is brilliant.
And it
Brilliant.
just, the key is it changes the conversations people have. When I stopped saying the automatic PT stuff, people talk to me differently because they knew I was a business owner. And yes, my business was in physical therapy at the time. Now my business is in coaching and helping people grow and scale and do all these things. But it's how we see ourselves. How you see yourself is how you're going to have the world see you. So the second thing is I call the identity crisis. We don't know who we really are. And by really looking at and challenging ourselves, we show up, and you mentioned it before, it's how we show up. When people ask in a networking group or whatever, what do you do? If you show up differently and you show up believing that I'm a business owner and I'm an entrepreneur, what is the result that you're helping people? It will shift that conversation and in so many times lead to much more fruitful collaborative relationships.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. And as you were talking, I'm thinking, what a great exercise to put yourself here on a piece of paper. This is you. What are the different things that you are? What are your identities? I mean, it can be a father, it can be a mother, it can be a brother, it can be, a servant of the community. It can be, a coach, a basketball coach for your kids. It can be a business owner. It can be a plumber. It can be whatever you are. And then you look at it and you go, okay, what are some of the identities that I put down that are independent of my business, that I'm still going to be regardless? So then if I move away from the business and I am passing that identity to somebody else, what's my identity? So that is also a great exercise to do, but to your point is very true. Okay, so we have point number 1, point number 2. What's point number 3 that keep business owners in the business and not able to actually break out of the business and achieve the freedom that they so desire?
Yeah, point number 3 is probably the most important of all of them because there's a thread between all of them, and this is our beliefs. This is what we believe we think is true. Whether you call them limiting beliefs or false beliefs, it's how we think about things. And I know in especially the world of healthcare, but I think it's pervasive through other areas too. Maybe not so much on Wall Street, but it's really our belief around money. Money is such a big block that if you have a negative belief around money, a negative view, you will unknowingly, subconsciously sabotage your business to not allow you to make money above what you think you are worth. I'll repeat that. You will not make more than what you think you are worth. Now, you can throw out something. You can say, well, I'm worth $10 million. No, 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 no. You just threw that out there. It's what you truly believe. So this idea,
It's
when
true,
our,
because if you truly believe you're worth $10 million, you're going to make the $10 million. If you truly believe that that's what you're worth, and of course, it can be something ephemeral. I mean, it has to be something concrete that you have to have the ability to actually execute on it. Because you
yeah,
can have somebody that is like a complete, I don't know, and then they, oh, I want to make 10
right.
million, but it's not. But it's not based on looking at what is.
Yeah, it's you start one of the exercises we do is we go back into your childhood and those formative years, and I ask simple questions like what's your memory of your relationship with the idea of money? What was your parents' view of money? Like when I was growing up, there's a quick story. So I remember I was like 8 years old. I'm in the kitchen. I'm just stupid young kid, and I spill something on the floor of the kitchen. I grab a roll of paper towels, and I'm not grabbing one. I'm grabbing like a whole like 20 of them, and I start wiping up a little spill. And my sister comes in, who's older than me, and goes, Jamey, what are you doing? I go, what? I'm cleaning up the spills. She goes, do you know how expensive those paper towels are? Use the McDonald's napkins. They're free. Now think about that. I'm 55 years old and I'm going back to when I was 8 years old. The imprint that has in someone that goes through your entire life with things that money's root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford it. It's all of these terms that get put in your brain, and then you become a business owner and you start to say the same thing to your kids, which I did. And I caught myself and I went, this is what I said I would never do. I would never say the words I can't afford. I would say, I choose not to buy this. I choose to buy this instead, but I don't want to put those things into my kids. And I started to realize I was doing that. And so many of us do those things because of our relationship with money. We say things like, I can't afford to hire that employee. And if someone says that to me, I said, what makes that so true? And they don't have, well, I looked at my budget and I looked at this and I looked at that and I looked at the marketplace. They don't say that. They're just saying it. They don't even realize where this answer, this information is coming from, because it's deep within our psyche. It's how we were just developed when we were growing. But here's the thing, it's not real. It's not true. It's just the story that you have been told. You didn't want it to be told this, but you have been. But guess what? You can change the story. You can change your relationship with this idea of money. You can change all of that, but it has to be a choice. And when you do, it'll shift how you see employees. They're not these expenses. When I look at employees, they're freedom. Employees are freedom, because I don't want to do all these different things in my business, but there's amazing people that love to do what I hate to do.
Absolutely.
It shifts how
Absolutely.
you hire. It shifts how you price your services. If you don't have a high net worth, you are going to price your services low. I work with people that are in the cash-based world, in private practice as well as other services, and it's amazing. You can tell right away when I say, tell me about you, tell me about, like, the services you provide, and why are they so good. Every single person, and he says, oh my God, they're the best. They're better than anything out there. I said, oh my God, well, what do you charge for them? Oh my, you would think they're giving them away for free. Oh, I charge $100 for this amazing service. I go, $100? That's that's ridiculous. You should be charging $500. Oh, I can't do that. They don't realize that what they're saying is already preempted in their brain, and they think they're controlling what they're doing. They're not. So your beliefs around things have a direct impact, and you being trapped in this business and you being unfortunately broke a lot of times and unable to get yourself out of there. These three things that you have to address: the idea of the fear of letting go, the idea of identity, the idea of beliefs, especially around money. If you don't address those, even if you have an amazing person and company like yourself that is helping people with systems, we as the owner will sabotage everything you do. You'll just say, why can't you just leave this in place? Well, I wanted to switch this. And you're like, you're sabotaging. They don't even realize they're doing it because it's subconscious. So this is the area that really moves the needle in people's businesses if they're willing to shine a light and really see what's going on.
Jamey, absolutely. So our listeners want to reach out to you. How can they do that?
Well, a couple ways. One, I created the Practice Freedom community. It's a community of exactly what we're talking about. People that want freedom. You don't necessarily have to be in a private practice. You can be another business, but you're tired being stuck and you don't want just some boring kind of, oh, let's just, talk about whatever in a Facebook community. This is much more deeper than that. I have my coaches in there. I'm engaging. So you can join us. Just fill out a couple questions, and if it all makes sense, I'll approve it. the Practice Freedom community. And of course, if you want to have a conversation with me and kind of look at your business and you might be interested in getting some help, getting some guidance, that's what executive coaching is, then I'm happy to talk to you about that as well. And I'll make sure you have the link for them.
Jamey, thank you so much for being again a guest on this podcast. We're going to include in the show notes the episode for the link to the episode that we did. And I'm sure I will see you again as a 3-time guest on this podcast, because our conversations are always very engaging, alive, and full of information. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.